Perfect. Good evening, everyone, for our last back meeting for this very strange year. We're rounding out 2020 strong. Want to thank all of you for all the work you've put in. Dalbin has been very helpful in, being a thought partner in a lot of how we organize this, and made a very helpful suggestion that since we haven't really had a chance to be in person interacting with everyone, if we could all just maybe say a couple of words about how we've been doing, what has been on our mind. It would just be nice to get a check-in from everyone since this is the last meeting of the calendar year. Before we do that, just to give you a moment to think about what you might want to share. A reminder to everyone who is not a member of the commission, please introduce yourselves in the chat. If you have an organizational affiliation, please list that as well, so we can just keep track of who's attending these meetings. Another thing that I wanted to mention is please feel free to tell people about the commission and spread the word. I know a lot of us are involved in many other things in the county. So if you have opportunities to jump into a meeting, or if you're invited to be a guest speaker on the podcast, or, there's so many different ways we can do that. So please feel free to do that. If you want to just sort of clarify that, these are my views, not necessarily the commission's views, feel free to share whatever views you may have on any of the topics that have come up. All of our meetings are public. All of our minutes are posted online. So if you want to share anything there or direct folks there, please do that as well. The more we can get the word out, the better. And I know some folks have already done that. So I'm excited to have more folks know about the commission and know about the great work we're doing. With that, let's go around and do a little bit of sharing. Dalvin, since this was your lovely idea, I'm going to put you on the spot to start us off.
Sure. And as a social worker, you should know that I have no problems talking about my feelings. But yeah, I thought that this would be a good way, just because, again, if we had been in person, I'm pretty sure that we would have all gotten together at some point, by now. And we can't do that, obviously, because of everything that's going on. So hopefully 2021. But we wanted to see just how folks are entering the meeting, how folks are coming into this meeting, and maybe even also ending, this crazy 2020. So for me, I wanted to say that I'm hopeful. And I think a big part of that is working with you guys. I think that being with folks who are as committed to social justice and as committed to being present in that fight, I think that makes me hopeful for all the work that we're going to do in the next year. So that's how I'm coming into this meeting and how I'm ending 2021. And then I will pass it to my subcommittee mate and the chair of our subcommittee, Jasmine Williams. Jasmine, I am passing it to you.
Okay, I'd say I'm feeling pretty relieved. I just finished my finals, so first semester of college online done. But yeah, so I'd say I'm feeling pretty good. I'll pass it to Robin.
Let me just make sure I'm unmuted. Yes, hi. Well, I'm actually feeling, yeah, I'm very happy with the work of the commission so far. I think it's been a very collegial experience, and I'm delighted that we seem to be slowly developing, or even quickly developing, a pretty good working relationship with the police department, which I think is really an important thing. Information has to flow both ways. I wanted to also just say that my wife just published a remarkable book. Nadia knows about this because she has spoken. My wife wrote a remarkable book about her experience on the wrong end of police assault in Montgomery County. And I'll put the information about it in the chat box. I'm biased, but I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's an incredible book. So I recommend you all read it immediately.
And Robin, do you want to pass it to the next person?
Yeah, how about Cherry?
Hi, I don't have anything interesting to report. The year ends much as it has begun, I think, for many of us. And we've had some really good meetings. I'm happy to be on this subcommittee we've done some asked some interesting questions already. So looking forward to next year, hoping that it doesn't really snow on Wednesday.
I know.
And hope everybody gets through. I think we're almost there. So I hope 2021 brings vaccines and science and sanity. And I will pass it to, let's see, is Justice on here?
I am. Thank you, Sheree. And yes, science and sanity, please. I am thankful for the opportunity to converse with all of you, number one. But number two is to kind of bring different ideas. I think that we've quickly developed a spirit of bringing together a lot of different ideas. Top of mind for me and how I'm doing is really thinking about the kids, honestly. And I say kids, I think about young people. This is hard, right? And it's really hard. I have a 7 and a 4-year-old, and watching them try to navigate virtual schooling, I'm imagining what teenagers are going through in that regard as well, right? I think that it's really hard for a lot of folks, and I am hopeful that as we move forward with vaccines, with science, that it'll bring a level of calm, because I do think that we have to kind of think about the impact on others and how everybody is really doing and kind of coping with all of this. So that's how I'm feeling. And with that, I will pass it over to Jen. Now that your cameras working, so you're good.
Hello. Yes, thank you. Hi, everybody. I don't know. I guess I can't really sum up a particular feeling. There's many. I'm excited that I'm going to graduate from the Citizens Academy tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. And I'm still alive after being killed 3 times. And I'm tired. That's another one. My nonprofit is, it's rather stressful being the director of a small nonprofit these days, as revenue and donations are down 50%. So that's a little stressful, but I don't, and my folks with disabilities don't really engage with the computer screen. So it's very, very challenging to be meeting the needs of so many people that are stuck in their home. And I'm finding out about more and more of my adults that are sick with COVID because not enough staff to just go to one house and not 6 other houses and transmit. So it's a little scary. I don't want to be a total downer. I'm just really, I'm happy to be here, and I just love this call because being surrounded by all these smart people is just a thrill for me. And I'm just going to shut up now and pass it to Vernon.
Okay, I am feel blessed and above ground looking down. Very disappointed in the behavior of y'all's president, because he ain't mine, and the way he is acting and the way he has brought these gangs into Washington to act like fools, and then blaming everybody else for his bad behavior. So other than that, I'm up and rolling.
Vernon, do you want to pass it to the next person?
Who's the next person? Alicia, maybe?
Yeah. Hi everybody. I'm glad to be here. I'm grateful to be alive, and I'm going to echo much of the sentiment that has already been expressed, particularly what Vernon just said. How I'm feeling right now is I'm grateful that my nephew and my brother get home alive every night. Because of the current environment, there's a lot of, we're safe, and I'm glad everyone here on the call as well, but there are folks out there who are suffering with this virus and, who are stopped by police and are, I'm sure, are fearful. And I'm just glad I'm glad about the work we're doing, the opportunity to do this work. And the Hiring and Discipline Subcommittee works hard. There's some brilliant folks in that subcommittee and some data masters, and I'm psyched about being a part of the work on that subcommittee. So I'll pass it to Nadia.
Hi, folks. So much like everyone else, I will piggyback on Robin and say that Six Women in a Cell is definitely a book everyone should read. It's gotten me through just kind of having a perspective of my own experience and mirroring what's happening here in the county. But entering the space very mindful that my workers are still out there all day, every day. Very conscious that I'm bringing their voice into the space, knowing that they interact with police on a daily basis. No matter where they're at. So entering the space very mindful today of the work that we're doing, but also kind of ready to do everything that we need to be doing. Mm-hmm. And I will pass it over to Eric.
Thanks, Nadia. Thanks, everybody. Shabab, thank you for
I'm coming.
For this opportunity for us to share with one another. I think it's not common in the public administration space that this happens, and I think it's not only is it smart and respectful, but I think it improves group process. I'm personally doing well. I remain healthy. My wife, my daughter. I, like Justice, daily overwhelmed by not only by how many people are suffering. I think of not only the children who can't play with their friends, who are denied the social activity of the socialization, the interruption of their schooling. But it's true then of every age group, of the middle school kids, of the high school kids, I'm lucky that I'm married and I am here with my wife. I think of all the people who are not, whose relationships are broken up by this. I speak several times a week with my 92-year-old aunt who is all by herself in an apartment, or my mother-in-law who's all by herself, who's seen, who sees nobody. That it is at every age group. I think of the kids my daughter graduated from college in the class of 2020, and how for all of her peers, this entry into adulthood is completely not at all what they expected. Or the kids who are graduating from high school, it is sweeping through everybody's life, the mismanagement of this tragic epidemic. I think about our work all the time on this commission, and I am constantly torn between my concern about the questions of the misconduct of the police on the one hand, and yet the dedication that so many police have in going to work to try to protect, to do the best that they can, the fears that they have, the frustrations that they have. And I think about the folks who are afraid of crime, for whom the police represent sort of their fervent hope of being protected, not necessarily because they have a sophisticated criminological view, but they understand that at least the police are authorized to intervene. They have weapons that can be used lawfully. And so we're stuck in this tension where in parts of the country, the homicide rate is gone up dramatically and people are afraid. And I suspect many people in the county are afraid, even if they're not experiencing crime directly because of how crime gets presented through the news. So we're in this critical phase where what we all want is the police to be better, but we're not all in alignment about what the vision of how better, more effective police might look.
Thanks so much, Eric. Do you want to pass it on to the next person?
And let's see if is Carolyn with us?
Hi, it's Caroline, but yeah, I am.
Caroline, I beg your pardon.
That's okay. It's always, everybody always says it that way. So,
I don't remember.
Well, no, oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, thank you, everybody. I don't want to take too long, but just to say, I want to repeat what Alicia had to say about the great subcommittee. I'm really grateful to have such great partners who are thinking about difficult questions. It is, I think, a real testament to all of you, how hard everybody is working, and the subcommittee certainly has been really digging in to the issues and being very thoughtful. I personally just want to say it's great for me to be a part of this. I'm super busy right now, the end of the semester. I taught my last class today, but lots of grading and all sorts of other commitments that I have. I would just say I am very hopeful. I'm hopeful that a commission like this can exist and look forward and think about what I like the phrase reimagining public safety. It's not, we're not here to denigrate people who want to be part of public safety. We are here to give our best thoughts and counsel to the council on how to make that vision a reality. You know, after today, certainly I feel a little bit better about everything else in the country. 306. So anyway, thank you all. I'm really, I'm so pleased to be part of this really important work.
Thanks, Caroline. I know it might be difficult to keep track of who we have left. Ms. Brewer, are you with us?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm so bad with computers. So first I want to thank everybody for the opportunity. I know we had a seat on it. I just want to let you all know that I'm really honored to be a part of it and to kind of be the representative that we're not afraid of change. We welcome change. And I want to make sure I communicate that properly to everybody. But also, I'm appreciative to have learned over these past couple of meetings that you guys are reaching to seek out more information and not just throwing suggestions without correct information. And I hope to do the same. And I want to be that. On a personal note, I cannot wait till we can meet in person safely. I do not like all this Zoom. I just feel like it has it's such a hindrance in us really trying to get to know each other. So I do appreciate this time today that we could all say something, but not having a back and forth conversation. I know we're all on the same page is really difficult. So I do look forward to when we can do that safely. I'm very fortunate, as some of you guys have said as well, that I haven't, I've remained healthy through this whole thing. But I do understand most of my family is in the teaching profession. So I know the struggles that they're going through. I have my brother's mentally and physically handicapped, so he's high risk and he has to stay in his home. And so there's just different challenges that I'm concerned about. Fortunate to be healthy, but looking forward to 2021, turning a corner. So yes, hopefully pray. Thank you. And I don't know who's left, so I'm sorry. Maybe to Chief Jones, Chief, if you're on.
So good evening to everyone. And thank you all for sharing, and particularly in these tough times. And I just want to say I'm thankful to be here and thankful to be healthy. I will say over the past almost month, I've seen an incredible jump in people who have come down with coronavirus, to include people who work for the police department, officers and professional staff. But I've also seen some family members and some friends who have come down, and in some cases, people who have passed away. So it is, really kind of hitting home to where we are in our environment right now. So I'm just blessed to be healthy, my family healthy for the most part. And so we just hope for those better days in 2021. And I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all of you for your passion. And, I know people we will not always see eye to eye, but people come from different places, and that's what Montgomery County is all about. That's what community is all about, is being able to share and to talk about. And I, like Sergeant Brewer, Kate just noted, in regards to being open to change. I've been on this police department for 35 years, and I can tell you this police department doesn't look like the police department that I joined. There's a lot of things that have changed over time, technologically, even from the people that work here. It's a different day. We look forward to working with you all hand in hand to bring about the change that you want. But again, at the end of the day, I was very appreciative to know that, I'm thankful for the men and women who actually do work for Montgomery County Police, who sacrifice and who make tremendous sacrifices to do their jobs each and every single day. They are some of the best people that I know, some of the best human beings. And no, we are not perfect. I am not proclaiming to be perfect. I know me personally, I am not perfect. I work very hard at trying to be better every single day, to be a better human being. And I think my police officers, for the most part, and my professional staff, I think we all strive to be better people at what we do. And so at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our community understands that, to know that we come from the human race, and that we are committed to making Montgomery County a better place. So thank you all very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Chief Jones. Jerome, have we had a chance to hear from you today? Is Jerome on the call?
Hey, everyone, it's good to see you all. Just want to say I'm thankful to be alive, to be here, part of this work on the commission. I got off the phone before our meeting with my grandfather. Today's his 86th birthday. And so I'm just thankful for him to be alive. Him and my grandmother both beat cancer very recently, and through a lot of prayer. And I'm just very thankful to have him in my life. And I'm always thinking about that. As a teacher, inside the classroom, outside of the classroom, there's a lot that's going on right now. And so I'm just blessed to still lead the Jaguar Scholars Leadership Program. We have over 70 members who meet every other week and talk about a number of topics. Anti-racism, for example, we most recently talked about. And just to know that I'm involved and continue to have a impact on students' lives and can build community just means the world to me. And it's something that I'm always going to be thankful for. The Citizens Academy, I've been enjoying thoroughly. And as Jen said, I'm looking forward to our last session because I think there was a lot of great work that came from that. On a personal news, as Robin pointed to, I do want to give my wife a shout out. She was recently honored as the School Psych of the Year for Montgomery County Public Schools. So she's amazing. Kudos. I got her sparkling apple cider, but she told me she couldn't drink that because of the baby. We wanted to celebrate. So I got to think of something to do because baby price is on the way. So
diamonds also sparkle, Jerome. Just say it. Diamonds also sparkle. Congratulations.
Husband on the budget, yeah.
Congratulations. And I definitely want to lift up Robin's comment in the chat. We definitely want to extend our condolences to all the colleagues of the officer that passed away in the line of duty. and to
Can I just say to Jerome that I feel that he should feel blessed to have his grandfather and grandmother in their 80s or whatever, and having I can attest to having had cancer myself and being able to get through it so far, and that I just lost a colleague on Thursday to cancer. So feel blessed. She was in her 80s, and so just feel blessed. Give them the best of love you got.
Thank you so much. And definitely echoing all of that. I just want to share a couple of things from myself personally. I've really enjoyed hearing from all of you about how the coronavirus has impacted the ways in which you and your loved ones are dealing with things. For my part, I'm in community with a lot of Black and brown folks of color who are queer and trans, folks who are working as drag artists, oftentimes to put ends together and get supplementary income. It's really hard to have a drag gig in the middle of a pandemic. I've been amazed at the creativity of these folks. Folks who have developmental disabilities and are unable to care for themselves, and watching community come together and put together meal trains, and how can we all show up for each other, right? Like a lot of people saying, hashtag the future is mutual aid. So really seeing a lot of queer and trans folks in the DC, Maryland area come through for one another and support one another has been really inspirational, and I'm taking that spirit with me in the work that we're going to be doing going forward. Thank you all so much for sharing. We did want to take a moment to just, hear from everyone. We've also wanted to create opportunities for you to give us feedback. We're figuring it out as we go along. As you all know, this is the inaugural version of this body. So the Google form that was sent out last week, we have responses open until Wednesday. We wanted to make sure you all had enough time to give feedback. So if you have thoughts on what we've been doing that's working, things that we could do that we're not doing right now, we really welcome any and all feedback. And we want to make sure that we set ourselves up for success for the remainder of our time together. With that said, I believe it might be time to vote on the minutes. So does anyone have any edits or suggestions that they haven't had a chance to share with Carlos yet? And if not, we'll go ahead into the vote. All those in favor of voting to approve the minutes from the November 9th meeting? All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I believe.
That was my mistake, my apologies.
Sorry, could you say that again? Oh, I must have missed that. So I believe.
Hey, and this is Caroline. Sorry, I was on mute, and I vote aye.
Okay, wonderful. I believe the minutes have passed, and we'll enter those into the website. I know I said we would do this last time, but going forward, we'll try and do the vote over Google Chat, just so we can have those published ahead of time, and people trying to keep up with our work have a chance to review that. A reminder to share your subcommittee meeting times, links to your online meetings, and to share your minutes so that Carlos can post those on our website as well. If you need help setting up an online meeting, it looks like we'll have a Zoom account that is available for us to use very soon. So we will, we can help ensure that is set up as well. Two quick updates on data requests. The traffic enforcement request was sent on November 10th, so that's fairly recent. We're still waiting to get a response from that. And I believe one of the subcommittees sent a request for IAD data on the 6th of November, and we received the data back on December 8th. That is the subcommittee on hiring and discipline, I believe. Any questions on any of those items? Okay, then we'll move directly on into subcommittee updates. For emergency response, we have, oh, I'm sorry, I went out of order. For SROs, I'll kick it over to Jasmine, who is the chair. No.
If you want, I'll go, Jazz, while you figure out why you're not being unmuted, I guess. So we, Jasmine sent us, so YPP is having a, like almost a town hall format where they're going to discuss a lot of what's going on with the SRO legislation that's coming down, not just in the county, but also, I don't know if you guys saw last Wednesday, Delegate Janelle Wilkins said that she is introducing a bill in the General Assembly to also remove all SROs from schools. And so YPP has been working with them to kind of organize this rollout because in the spirit of that, they're having a youth forum on Wednesday night where parents and community members are going to come forward and speak. And so we met with YPP a couple of weeks ago, and they presented to us about what their asks were going to be. And we will circle back with them after their presentation on Wednesday. And then we'll make sure, Carlos, that you have that. We've been using email to just kind of communicate back and forth. So in lieu of formal meetings, in lieu of having to find times to meet together, and that's been working for us. Cool.
Perfect. Jasmine, did you have anything you wanted to add? I'm not sure if you were unable to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I think Dalvin covered our bases.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions for the SRO subcommittee?
None. Nothing about cops in schools.
And if you have questions, you can always email those to Jasmine, and Jasmine will make sure that the rest of the subcommittee members get it. And then we'll move on to emergency response. We have a subcommittee chair. Jen has very kindly taken on this additional labor for us. Thank you so much, Jen. If you want to share an update for our subcommittee.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We did meet, Verna Shabab and we did meet one time. And we did, I wrote up the minutes and I was just waiting for some approval before they actually got published in real life. So now I'm going to give you the rundown of them and I'm going to consider this approval. So we did have 3 discussion points. We talked about mobile crisis teams consisting of an officer and someone with mental health experience and the pros and cons of this situation. Of sending someone who's unarmed to a very scary situation versus sending an officer who now has to watch out for another person in possibly a very scary situation. So we're talking about both of those issues. But we all pretty much agreed that one mobile crisis team, as wonderful as Beth is and as amazing as her work is not enough for 1 million+ people. So that we all agreed on. We just need to come up with an alternative. Discussion point number 2 was we did discuss a voluntary database about maybe having people with a history of mental health or autism or associated disorders, maybe just having that somewhere in a profile online somewhere. I haven't not been able to confirm this yet, but if the fire, I think Vernon had mentioned that fire rescue may have some type of a system where they do have a notation area where they can say, you know, this person in this house has autism or whatever. I haven't been able to confirm that yet. And if that does exist, it'd be really great to share that information across county organizations, although it was also brought up that some people don't want people knowing, and there's not a lot of comfort in self-disclosure, and people don't want to be pointed out and singled out. So there's that other side that we're also thinking about. Discussion point 3, I did reach out to I'm losing the name, Quanti, maybe, at the 911 call center. He was at the training that the Citizens Police Academy. I loved him. He was fabulous. And we did reach out to him, and I asked for just a conversation so I can ask a couple questions. And he pretty much referred me to the police, marketing department, or the public voice of the police. And that's really not what I needed. So I've been a little slow recovering from my mom's passing to follow up on that. And I will, maybe Carlos could send a note, or maybe I need to go through Sergeant Mullaney. I'm not sure how to get to an actual person that works there. So any help would be appreciated on that. Other topics, we just talked about trust issues for people of all different colors with the police, and we're very cognizant and aware of that. And Shabab was going to reach out to Silver Spring Justice Coalition. I was going to hit some autism groups, and hopefully we're hoping for Ms. Brewer to take part in, maybe contacting some FOP folks to talk about these issues with community groups. So there's representation of all sides. And I don't have a date for the next meeting, but these are the minutes for now. And I did also just want to point out one piece of legislation I just got from the ARC, the federal level legislation. There are two bills just raised today, Senator Bob Casey. It's called the HELP Act, to provide funds to states to expand and improve their 211 systems, which are non-criminal, non-life, non-emergency calls. And there's also a new one called the Safe Interactions Act, which would fund training of law enforcement on interactions with people with disabilities. And that would be an 8-hour program, half of which would have to be run by folks with disabilities. So of course I'm thrilled with this. It's brand new, hot off the press today. So I'll be following that and keeping you all updated on that. Thank you.
Jen?
Yeah.
Jen, I'd just like to approve your minutes.
Thank you.
And also say to the committee that just this weekend or so, this last couple of days or so, there's been an incident where the person called in, it was called in that they were suicidal. When the police showed up, they had a gun and started shooting. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's out of hand almost. When the police showed up, this person started shooting. I believe a cop was hit, and that's my concern. One of my real concerns with sending out a social worker crew without some kind of armed protected people.
Oh yeah, that's totally. I'm not proposing any of that. There needs
to
be.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
So.
I agree, 100%.
That was just my little 2 cents.
Yeah. Too dangerous. Thanks, Vernon.
May I ask a question? This is Justice, and this is a general question, so this might not be directed specifically to the committee. But I guess my question is from the regards, Jen, you talked about federal bills and funding. And I guess my question, and maybe this is a broader topic, is how funding works specifically, because again, I think that the concern is I would agree, but we have funding restrictions, right? And I'm sure Ms. Brewer would say, yeah, tell me about it. But I guess that's the question that I would ask is, will we at all have a consideration of that or a conversation in that regard to try to understand how some of the funding decisions are made? And again, it might be too broad, but at the same time, I would imagine if you wanted to go down a path of social workers, and we all agree, yes, the question will quickly become, where's the money coming from? How are you allocating, et cetera, et cetera. So I just put that out there broadly as a discussion topic. I think that we should explore if it's possible. I recognize that's very difficult and murky because of so many different funding sources, but it is something that is top of mind if we say we need more of how that all works just in all different funding sources. So food for thought.
Right. Good point, Justice.
Thanks so much, Justice. I want to echo that and say that while we're not advocating for any legislation at the state or federal level, it is completely, within our purview to send a letter to the council saying that we think this could help out with some of those budgetary considerations. So that's one way that we could let the council know, and then they can take a recommendation and do what they want with that. Robin, did you want to add something else to that?
Yeah, just a quick thing. Pretty much everything we're going to say has some budgetary implication or other. So I think it might be helpful for us to do all of our work knowing that, Justice, you're absolutely right to bring it up, but I'm going to suggest that we postpone discussion of budgetary issues until after we've done all the detail work, so that then we know what we're going to be trying to recommend, and then we can think about, okay, well, how can we pay for it?
Yeah, you don't really want that to be a roadblock to change. I understand that. Yeah.
We'll move on to the next subcommittee, but please do pass on any other questions to Jen, and Jen will do an excellent job of making sure we're all looped in. The next subcommittee is discretionary policing, and I believe that there is not a specific subcommittee chair for that, so that's Ms. Branson, Mr. Reed, and Dr. Gaster.
Well, we have not met again since the last meeting. We were waiting. We sent that information request, and sort of waiting to get that back. In the meantime, I think we'll be looking at the data dictionary that the police sent back to us last time. I'll have some time to look at that, because I think there's important information in there about what is tracked and what isn't tracked in these interactions. So we did definitely decide that we're going to do this sequentially. We're going to deal first with traffic, then with pedestrian stops, and then with other discretionary relationships, interactions. So that's where we are.
Right, but just to supplement, we did have, we were a part of a meeting. I think it was the I can't even remember. Right, training. Right. So we were a part of that meeting, and a lot of the questions we had about some discretionary police actions, specifically traffic stops, were addressed, at least in part, in that meeting. So, we do have to circle back, based on what we heard. I guess, my big picture question about, all these meetings and whatnot is, what is the goal for the subcommittees? What should we expect to produce, and how will that be incorporated into a document or something that the commission will publish? It would be helpful in, as we get more detailed in our analysis, to understand what goal are we seeking to achieve here. So, for instance, does the commission plan on publishing some kind of, interim report this year, with some kind of recommendations? Because I think, it's great to gather information, but we do kind of have to know where we're supposed to be going with it. So that's a sort of a big picture question that I think, that the commission will have to answer. But I think that will be helpful for everyone, as they as they engage in these meetings.
Sherry,
Sherry,
what did you mean by this year when you say this year? I assume you don't mean calendar year.
No. I mean, on the 1 year anniversary of the establishment of the commission. No, I definitely don't mean by the end of 2020. That's a timeline nobody needs to think about. That is what. Thank you for clarifying that.
Sherry, I completely agree. I think we do want to hand over some sort of document. I think we're open to suggestions about what that can look like. But for now, we are doing this work with the understanding that we will pass on some recommendations to the county council, The specific form that might take, we can narrow down a little bit further down the line. There is one thing we might do in the meantime, which is not necessarily a full report, but a letter around the specific bills that the subcommittees are reviewing. But we can come to that when we get to that point in the agenda about those specific bills. Any questions for the Discretionary Policing Subcommittee? And if there are none, we can head on to the final subcommittee, which is hiring and discipline. I completely forget if you had a subcommittee chair for that.
We
Yes.
don't have a subcommittee chair, but we're working very collaboratively, and I do the minutes, and Eric is an excellent writer and data researcher, and so he helps quite a bit with the writing and completion of minutes as well. So I'm going to ask him to fill in some of these spaces that I may be missing. I wrote the minutes we met twice during the month of December. We met just this past Sunday for about an hour and a half, and all members were present, and we discussed Leober, what we've learned, and Eric will fill you in a bit more on that because we had a presenter on December 4th who actually shared her expertise and her knowledge regarding Leober and some other areas of importance to us. And we discussed racial bias concerns in hiring and recruitment. That's a very general umbrella, but I sent a query to Carlos regarding whether he could find for us any kind of psychological assessment or survey instrument that was used in the screening process of officers that would target and look at racial bias in hiring and recruitment. We also discussed SROs, and I'm happy to say that the subcommittee is pretty much on the same page regarding SROs and Leober. I don't think I necessarily need to share that here in this forum unless I'm advised by the other members who are present here. But it is a good thing that we are pretty much generally on the same page. And again, back to data, we're going to be looking at possibly getting a presenter from the Maryland Standards and Training Commission, Police Standards and Training Commission to speak with us, as well as someone that Eric is trying to get regarding internal affairs processes. So, and we also we shared some general concerns about the Citizen Academy regarding depth of presentation and statements that may have been of some concern from presenters. So that's my spiel. Eric, if you could fill in, add anything else to add, or any other members, Caroline, Nadia? And I would like Eric to speak about December 4th because he actually wrote the summary of the December 4th meeting.
Thank you, Alicia, for covering, I think, just about everything. I don't think I need to say more about December 4. We've written up sort of a summary of the issues that we sort of touched on, that we spoke to Professor Christy Lopez about. They ran the gamut of things. I mean, we were she is a law professor at Georgetown who specializes in questions of police accountability and has consulted widely and worked for the U.S. Department of Justice. And so questions such as mundane, perhaps, as what is the burden of proof? We found, anyhow, we're trying to sort of, as we're looking at Bill 3420, trying to understand more of the issues that we have to understand if we're going to make an intelligent recommendation.
And Eric, did you share your great summary, the recap of that meeting with Carla so that it can be posted on the website?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, I reached out to the IT administrative staff that runs the county websites to post it online today.
Perfect. Thank you all. Does anyone have questions for the subcommittee?
No, this is Caroline. I just wanted to add a little bit, or maybe we could put it off till later, because it wasn't so much. It was a conversation that we had, but it wasn't necessarily
go ahead.
Specific to the subcommittee's work. It really affects all of us. And Alicia mentioned it, but it deals with the academy. And I think I just put a footnote there because I think we should have a deeper conversation about it with everybody, just sort of. But my and I think mostly the subcommittee was in agreement, but I don't want to speak for anybody else. And again, I'm speaking for myself here. I think it would be very appropriate for there to be some kind of an independent review of the academy and sort of what its goals are. Well, I think Eric very appropriately said in our meeting that it's entirely right for the police department to be thinking about its image and having that be a part of it. There were other elements to it that I think really need to be examined in terms of whether it's accomplishing its goals. And I don't want to speak again too much about this because I think it merits its own conversation. Because there were
completely.
A few.
I completely agree, Caroline. Yes.
Okay. There were just a few parts that I certainly found somewhat troubling that worried me about, especially school groups hearing comments of the kind that we heard that were upsetting. And so, again, I think it's just to have that sort of thinking about, there's definitely an appropriate mission there, but is it being accomplished the way that the academy is presented?
Yes, so to clarify, I agree that we need to have a conversation about this. I want to remind everyone that in the Google form that we sent out, one of the questions was about the Citizens Academy. So once we have everyone's responses on that, we can sort of take an initial look, and then at one of our subsequent meetings, we can carve out some time to discuss that. I also know that the various commissions have been, the various presentations have been structured a little differently, and especially for those of us who are attending asynchronously, we might not have a chance to ask follow-up questions. So if any of those do come up, please flag that for us. I'm sure we can ask follow-up questions about the material that was presented, and make sure it's directed to the specific officers who were presenting those sections. So putting aside the Citizens Academy for now, were there any other questions for the Hiring and Discipline Subcommittee? And if not, I would love to spend some time hearing from our ex officio officers. As you know, we neither Chief Jones nor Sergeant Brewer are serving on any particular subcommittee, and that's because their expertise is so greatly needed on all of the matters we're dealing with. If they have any immediate reactions to any of this, or if you've already received certain requests, I saw that in the chat, Ms. Brewer is helping direct Jen to the appropriate person. We'd welcome any feedback you might have on what's been discussed so far. Ms. Brewer, do you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you. So I do work at the training academy, and actually on our this Wednesday, Citizens Academy that we have specifically set for you guys, I will be giving a presentation on that day about the use of force and how we train use of force and stuff. I am not directly involved in our Citizens Academy. So if there's comments or statements that are made that are concerning, I'd certainly like to know, because I'm focused, I work on the in-service side, so I deal with the sworn officers and all the training that's required yearly by all the sworn officers, and help to create that training that gets pushed out depending on the topic. So I welcome any questions about training. And I think I'm really bad at this. I think I see a hand up. Is that a question for me? I'd be happy to answer it if it's related right now.
Yeah, it was a question from me. Do you have a handout or something that shows all of the annual in-service training that officers go through, that just lists the various hours that they do for different things? Because I think that would be very helpful.
Sure, I can give you our program of instruction that happened this year, 2020. Understand it's a little different because of COVID, as is everything, right? And then I can give you our planned program of instruction for next year. But I'll also, I do have a handout that includes the requirements. So we adhere to MPCTC, the state requirements. We also adhere to CALEA. We are CALEA accredited. And I think we just got our 20-year accreditation, consistent accreditation. So we have different accreditations for that we also maintain. So there's a lot of requirements, and then there's additional stuff that we do. So I can kind of break it down just to short bullet points, and then if there's further questions, and I can provide that to Carlos. I can provide the requirement sheet really easily. I'll just break down our program of instruction from last year and this year, and then without getting too in depth to it, but then I'll be open for questions if there's any I can help with that. Yep.
That's great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And Sergeant Brewer, any other reflections on what the subcommittees are working on, or any points you'd like to follow up on?
No, I'm interested to read the minutes. And again, just if there's anything, and I know I can't help with every single topic. And if I don't have an answer, I'll be honest and let you know if I can get that answer. But I'm here. I'm available. If anyone has any questions, please reach out. I think I had mentioned it before. Some of my emails weren't coming through or going to my junk mail. I think I fixed most of those. But if I don't respond, if you could reach out to Carlos, and because I know I get his emails, maybe he can reach out to me. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. But I will answer everything and anything that I can if there's questions.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'm hoping we can make a similar request as Chief Jones. Before we move to Chief Jones, I see one question. Alicia, please go ahead.
Yes, hi. My question is for Chief Jones. Chief Jones, thank you so much for everything, all the work you've done, and I really appreciate having heard from you, and I say that quite earnestly. And this may sound a little off kilter, but you had mentioned some time ago that the officers went on a field trip to the National African American Museum of History and Culture. So my question was there a follow-up assessment? You know, this is the educator, former educator in me. Did the officers complete a follow-up assessment, whether it was a journaling or any kind of, to actually show, you know, some kind of artifact to show that they actually went and really took in what there was to learn at the museum, and didn't spend all their time in the more fun upper floors, which are entertainment and sports and so forth, which a lot of my friends, you know, do.
So Alicia, to piggyback on that, the times we've taken groups to the museum, we've only made it to the third floor. So we've never got to the front floor. So they don't know anything about it unless they went themselves on their own trip. They didn't get to do that on our trip. And it's a great question that you asked. You know, we didn't really memorialize it from a sense of having them put in journal. I know there was a sense of follow-up from the training staff, from the recruits that we took, that they brought them back and did sort of an overview of the program and got some feedback of their feelings. I know when we took the executives, we did something very similar. We brought everyone into the auditorium there at the museum and really had a really good debrief and good conversations about what they had observed. And, you know, one of the things that, again, was very interesting to me was to hear, you know, many people talk about that they weren't taught this history when they went to school, right? And that I thought that was a great learning moment just from us, from as executives, to know that there's a lot of history that has never, excuse me, been shared. Not that I was totally surprised, because of course I went through school and I know what was taught, you know, and unless I deliberately, when I went to college, took classes of African American history as an example, that you weren't going to get it anywhere else. So, so there is, again, and that, of course, that program has been on pause for over a year, but we always look for ways to improve. So I would say that's a great suggestion, what you brought to us, because it does allow us to really memorialize it a lot better, and for people to get some more out of it with that sharing. So I'll bring that to the Academy staff as well for our recruits and for the overall program.
And Chief Jones, we'd love to hear, in addition, any feedback you might have on commission matters, particularly the subcommittee updates that were just shared. I know having your perspective on that can be very helpful.
Sure. No, I mean, I know there's a lot going on, particularly in many of the work that you're already doing, as you all know, particularly with the reimagining public safety work that's out there. The audit has begun as well with the consulting group that's began to do some. And my apologies for not having all of the information. We could get back to you all within the 30-day period. We have, and I make no excuses, but we have really been bombarded with a lot of information requests from a lot of different groups. And Carlos, I know I owe you an email, but we do have the traffic information that you requested. That we're working on that. Hopefully, we'll have that to you by this week. That's my task to my folks to get that out to you by this week. And again, you know, knowing that there's a lot of discussions about the SRO program. I had a conversation with the county executive earlier today. We're already working with MCPS with their staff as they're reporting back to the Board of Ed with their report about the SRO program, and of course dealing with the upcoming legislation early next year. So there's a lot of things but there's a lot of requirements, and there are things that, you know, unless they change significantly at the state level, that I think that from a commitment of school safety, that there is a need for us in policing to work with MCPS and partner with them in a productive way. And as we've always stated, that, you know, any improvement to any program is always something that we should always be looking forward to making significant changes. That's one of the things we do with policy all the time, is things change. And as you all are talking about, a lot of the things that are impactful. So, but we're here for you as a resource. And we just want to make sure that we are reiterating that to you, to please reach out to us. And we'll be glad to try to point you in the right direction to get our subject matter experts to answer those questions that you might have, or any information that you may need.
Thank you so much, Chief Jones. I see a question from Justice.
Good evening, Chief Jones. Thanks for your time tonight. The question that I had that I've been kind of struck by is participated in some of the, at least the online Citizens Academies, the abbreviated version, is a lot of the things that are happening, but we don't hear about. And I know there was a conversation around communication. My question for you is, how much of that is at your discretion, what you're allowed to communicate out, or does it have some, what I'll call kind of centralized, like the government, Montgomery County, or the state tells you what you're allowed to communicate and what you're not? I guess I'm just curious as to what we can directly impact in some ways of just getting out some of the things that are also good things, right? That we just don't hear about. Sure. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it, to be fair, right? I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah. It's a great question. And so we have our own public information office that was run by one of our captains. And if you ever see like a police spokesperson, sometimes you will see one of our captains who would be front and center. It is staffed by 2 additional police officers, and we have another liaison within our Latino community that provides some liaison work. But I am changing the dynamic of our public information office. I'm in the process of hiring a civilian to actually oversee at least the unit itself. The civilian assistant chief that we're also in the process of bringing in will oversee the PIO office. One of the things that I am working on is messaging. I have been trying to focus on a more positive, to getting more messages out, particularly the more positive messages, to talk about some of those things that we're doing out in our community. And really, as we as police officers, we like to take ownership of a lot of things, but one of the things I think that's been a changing trend in the profession is you're starting to see more civilians be in this role to assist police departments with messages, people who are more experienced at that type of work. So I'm hoping to have that person in the seat within the next 2 to 3 months. And I think you will see a change in how we are messaging out on social media platforms, as well as other messages that we have in working with the media along the way. So, but thank you for bringing that to my attention, Justice. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We'll take a question from Eric, and then we'll move on to the next agenda item, just in the interest of time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief, I wanted to ask about problem-oriented policing. In the November 24 Citizen Academy, which spoke about traffic, the officer described a problem that in the Air Park area of Gaithersburg, many individuals who own trucks park their trucks, I guess, in ways which are considered illegal in commercial areas. The officer explained that people moved to Montgomery County and set up, he gave as an example, logistics businesses, and they can't park their vehicles in their apartment buildings, so they park them on the street. And they get repeatedly ticketed, and after enough tickets, then an order to tow the vehicle away. In a problem-oriented policing approach, instead of sort of saying, how can we continue to increase the punishment side, citations and so on, is there a way that we can solve the problem, which would be to figure out how these trucks could be parked in a way that doesn't offend the community, but enables the business people who are contributing to the economy in Montgomery County and supporting their families with through the trucks that they own, find a way that they get supported. Now, it's not the job of the police to find the parking. It's the idea of problem-oriented policing then is, how do we then connect the problem that we observe in our role as the police to getting the county to come up with the solutions? And so what is there a suggestion program? Is there in the training a way in which officers are encouraged to take the initiative to find solutions that serve the community that are outside of the enforcement mechanisms that they're empowered with?
Yeah, so what we try to do, Eric, is we, in the problem-oriented philosophy, is to work with your external partners, such as other county agencies, or, in this case would be, for example, Department of Transportation, to try to find solutions to some of these types of problems. We've had this before with, different areas in Gaithersburg that I'm aware of, and I know in some parts of Silver Spring, where we've had issues with parking, and we've had to try to come up with some, to try to work with them to try to create the solutions, because we don't own any property that we could put these trucks in and allow them to park in illegal. I mean, a lot of times you're either dealing with the private sector or trying to figure out if the county can come up with some solution in order to provide this parking that's not going to be problematic in these types of communities. I know it happened in Montgomery Village as a problem, and it created some dangerous situations the way the trucks were parked. And so we try to come up with some solutions to allow them to go find other places to park. So the goal of any time of problem oriented, and we always work with our sergeants to help to navigate those waters, as well as any command staff in any division that we have. When you're trying to alleviate a problem, is to try to find partners in order to be able to resolve the problem, not to always enforcement being the only role that we have in law enforcement in order to try to make it go away, you might say. So it's not whether we're writing parking tickets to try to force them to go somewhere else. The question is, are we successful with our other partners in trying to create these solutions in the county? And sometimes there's some major challenges, depending upon location. So, but that's one of the strategies of problem-oriented policing, is that we've taught that people try to work with our other agencies or other partners, and sometimes it might be in the private sector in order to try to resolve some of these situations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric and Chief Jones. I want to be mindful of time and make sure we can conclude this meeting in a timely manner. So I'll just hold off on questions for 1 second. I want to make sure that these meetings are a time for all of us to discuss with each other. I think today's meeting was an excellent example of that. So just want to make a note that there are some really helpful presentations that I'd invite all of you to review in your own time. First of all, there are the results from the survey that was fielded by the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force. The results have been shared with all of you. Just before this meeting, I also saw that a copy of the results disaggregated by demographics. So we'll make sure that is also shared with all of you. I think that's a listserv that not all of the commissioners are on, so we'll make sure you have a chance to look at that as well. In addition to that, there was the public forum that was hosted by the task force and a racial equity presentation by the county's chief equity officer. So please take a moment to look at those. If you have any questions, please feel free to share those with us. We'll make sure we set up another Google form so we can collect responses from that and then take it from there. I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about the pending legislation. I believe early in November, we had an update sent to the commission list about Bill 4520 on community policing and data. I believe that would be within the purview of the Subcommittee on Discretionary Policing, and of course the bill on SROs 4620, which is a perfect fit for our SRO subcommittee. My hope is that at our next meeting in January, we have a chance to hear from the 3 subcommittees that are reviewing the 3 bills. As a reminder, the other one is 3420 that we had previously referred to the Subcommittee on Hiring and Discipline. And to Ms. Branson's point about how do we take all the work we're doing and transform it into some sort of product, I'm hoping that we can start drafting a letter to the County Council with our analysis of these bills. Whether we end up recommending or endorsing one bill or not, I think really depends on the specifics of that bill and the sentiments of the commission as a whole. And would welcome all of your thoughts on that as well. But I'm really hoping that we can, starting next month, start putting together our feedback on these 3 specific bills. So with that, I would love to hear from any of you about that process for having the subcommittees look at it and then passing it on to the County Council. I see Nadia's hand up, so we'll start there and then take a couple of more comments.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So one of the things that I was thinking, like the subcommittee process seems to be very, it's a little bit difficult to go through it because it seems like we will have to go to vote in order to come back to the main to the commission with an answer. And some of these bills are a little bit pressing. I'm looking at the SRO bill, just even looking at the data bill and these bills that seem to be very simple that are paving the way for even more dismantling of an institution, right? And that's, I like to say dismantling because there are things that are happening that we have no idea about, and that this is the process of that. And so I'm a little bit worried that the subcommittee process for the bills is going to hinder the possibility of some of these very good bills from going through. And so I know we've had lots of discussions. I've had discussions with my fellow commission members, but I would love to hear from all of you if there's a kind of a way that we can set kind of a timeline. Say we have a bill that we get on such date. We have a timeline to get it in by X date, whether it's a public hearing or not. And I know Susan and folks can let us know ahead of time when the public hearing would be, so that if we are going to be submitting any comments, whether they're written or whether we attend via Zoom, that we're prepared and that we can submit them ahead of time, because we can say we're talking about it and we are, but we need to make a very clear action and an answer that I know county executive and county council need. And some of these bills, particularly the SRO bill, which seems to be highly politicized at this point, I don't understand personally. It seems like our perspective and our input is going to be highly valuable. So I worry that we're going to take too long. I'm sorry for making this longer, but that's what I meant to say.
And if I may, Madam Chair, I think Nandi, you're spot on. I think one of the things that Shabab and I have talked about is, for example, and I'm just going to use it as an example. This isn't what we've set in stone, but I'll give you an example of a process, right? Like in theory, we get an email about a bill from Carlos, right? And then as we get that bill, it's automatically referred to the subcommittee, and then they're able to do, and then a report would be due back to Shabab and I, say in like 22 days or something. I'm using that as an example. And then we can come back and decide whether we're going to support the bill or not. I think that I think we have to be careful that in lieu of trying to be cautious, we don't slow down some of the work, right? Because I think you're spot on. I think that especially the SRO bill is almost accelerated in a way. Like they introduced it before Thanksgiving. It is now going forward, so it's moving really, really fast. And we know that the General Assembly is also introducing their own bill for SROs. And I got to be honest, because I've spoken to, so my boss is on the police task force, right? And they're about to submit their report, right? And Prince George's County just submitted their report, with their recommendations. And so I think you're going to see a lot of the General Assembly use a lot of the information and recommendations that all these different bodies are providing them, right? And so the last thing we want to do is to, just because we're trying to be cautious, to kind of slow the train down a little bit. So I think, honestly, a formalized procedure where we do set some kind of a timeline, I think that could work really well. And I think you guys have done such amazing work already, right? Like every subcommittee has done kick-ass work to even tackle some of these really complex bills, right? And I think we need to make it so that way it's easier for you guys to get the feedback back to us so we can act accordingly. So I think that's a great point.
Now, okay, so the Google Doc that went around, the commissioners really aren't supposed to comment on it as we did with the Bill 3420, or are we able to do that, or is there supposed to be some kind of integrated connecting among the members of the subcommittees to go ahead and post comments as a subcommittee? Is that what Nadia was referring to? Because I thought that we were all just entering our thoughts and so forth, sharing on the Google Docs.
I think it might be helpful if we create another, maybe we can do another meeting the way we did on prior to our discussion of Bill 3420. So if we maybe do another meeting early in January, that might be an opportunity for us to discuss the specific legislation, and then we can have enough time to comment ahead of the public hearing. And then, that way maybe the timing will work a little better.
Okay, so hold off on entering comments on the Google form that went around, or
the current Google form doesn't have a box specifically to comment on the legislation, as far as I remember. But we can create another one and make sure people have a chance to give input that way.
Can I suggest that we normalize the process in that whatever it is, right? If if you see comments on a particular bill, send the bill out, send off the Google form, give people a deadline, and refer to the subcommittee, have the subcommittee look at it, give them a deadline. This need not be ad hoc. We should formalize a process, and after those comments, whatever that timeline is, then we as a commission meet to discuss whatever people want to say or not say. Otherwise, we're going to continually be engaging in an ad hoc process when it's not necessary. We know this is happening. These are situations that will recur.
And that's not good that we evening. Actually, I thought that we were. I actually thought that we had the 18th as a deadline to comment on bills 4520 and 4620.
We'll make sure we send around something that makes that explicit. Robin, did you want to add something?
No, I wanted to second what Cherry said. I think, we're engaged in juggling a lot of different things here. I just looked through my email. I can't find any of those references at all. So first of all, it's really important that everything that the commission does and everything the commission sees must be posted in Teams, period. So we all know we can find everything there if we're really looking for it. Probably it will be helpful to develop some subdirectory information structure there so we can find things more easily. But that's one thing. I totally agree with Sherry that getting some kind of sort of formal structure in place is going to make life a lot easier in the end. So probably you and Dalvin might want to propose a formal structure of some kind and circulate that, and we can deal with that by email, or by direct comment back to you. I don't think we need to have a dog and pony show about it, but let's get that rolling.
Completely agreed, and I think Ms. Burns makes an excellent point that we should formalize this going forward.
Yeah.
Very quickly, we will do exactly that. Any new business items for the commission?
This isn't a new business item, but I would like to ask Carlos to make sure that I be a little late coming on the class on Wednesday. So if he can pass that message on. No, we started 6:30, but I might be a few minutes late because of another commitment. So thank you.
Thanks, Vernon. Jen, did you want to add something?
I just want to make sure that it is okay and appropriate for me to summarize minutes from the other committees for like this week, the Commission on People with Disabilities wanted me to do a little summary of what's going on. And since I'm not on all of the other, committees, I just want to make sure that everybody is fine with me just summarizing your minutes or whatever the last thing that you have published to present. Today I had to do it again for another disability group. So I just don't want to be speaking, just transparency, I guess, if that's all right with everybody. Are you all fine with that?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Any other thoughts or reflections from anyone?
Oh, there was that one thing we discussed about finding ways to, I thought we did that actually worked fairly well today, but to make sure that we have discussion time with police department staff, both Ms. Brewer and Chief Jones, but whoever else is relevant to a particular discussion. I think that's perhaps the most important thing that we do in some ways is to directly connect with the police department. And I want to make sure that we figure out ways to have those meetings, given that we can't do it in person. I think we lost Shabab.
Yeah, I think so as well.
I think so.
It
Yeah, I think so.
froze. The screen
I think it
froze.
froze. Robin, that's a great point. I guess I'll pick it up until she comes back. Yeah. So one of the things that Shabab and I spoke about was because, and I think you guys have seen this when we attend the different Citizens Academy stuff. There's a lot of questions that we have, right? Even just questions for the trainers, questions for Chief Jones, questions for Ms. Brewer, and so one of the ideas that we toyed with was, did it make sense to just kind of just bombard them with 1,000 emails regarding questions? That didn't seem like it was the best use of our time. So what we then came back to was, would it make sense to schedule so similar to how we scheduled that meeting where we reviewed the bill, us scheduling a time just for us to be able to speak to MCPD representatives about just questions that we have pertaining to different things, and we wanted to get your feedback on whether you thought that was a better way to do it, or if you guys had any suggestions on any different ways to do it, because we wanted to be mindful of your time. We didn't want to give you another meeting to attend to, but we wanted to be able to get that we got at least some kind of FaceTime that isn't in this kind of setting where we're juggling 10, 11 different agenda items, where we can really break it down to some questions that we can ask Ms. Brewer and Chief Jones. What do you guys think?
I think that's a good idea. However, it can get very unwieldy with a bunch of people asking a bunch of different questions. And so I think that the more time cognizant approach could be for people to submit their questions to you or Shabab in writing. You would probably detect a lot of similar themes. And to then have those questions forwarded to whoever we're meeting with from the police shortly before the meeting, so that we can actually get some answers that make sense. I like that. It doesn't have to be, and I caution people to in asking questions, the funnel is best. You start big and you work down small, right? Okay. So that's what I would suggest. I mean, that because it needs to be beneficial for everyone's time.
Yeah, I like that suggestion, and then we can group questions with similar themes, and then just kind of narrow it down. Jen, you have your hand up, and then I'll go to Robin. Jen, no hand up. Robin, no hand up either. Okay. Okay. So then here's what we'll do. Because I like that suggestion, and so let's say by next Monday, the 21st. Okay. If you guys can just email Carlos a list of questions that you would want to ask, right? And we'll do this. And I think this will be a good way that if it goes well the first time, we can do it again, maybe on a monthly basis or bi-monthly basis. And then Shabab and I will group the questions into different themes. We'll narrow it down. We'll pick a date that we can then meet with MCPD officials to ask them these questions that we can get answers to. Does that sound good to everybody? Yeah. Okay. Shabab is back. Madam Chair. No worries. Before you end the meeting, though, I wanted to say we skipped Carlos and Susan at the beginning. We were asking how people were, and you guys are just as important to the work that we do. So how are you guys doing? Are you guys doing okay? Is that a yes? Carlos, you always smile, but I don't know if that's a yes. Like, I don't know if you're good.
Yeah. No, I'm doing well. I'm healthy and safe, learning a lot. This is I think my 4th month at working for the Council Central staff. So getting accustomed to everything, new issues, new faces, new people. It's been a lot, but it's been great. I'm very fortunate to have met all you all and help you guys do your important work. So this has been great. And learning from MCPD through the Citizen Academy and just interacting with everyone on a daily basis has been great. And Susan has been a tremendous resource for me, and you all should reach out to her more. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, thanks,
I don't
Carlos.
want to give Susan more work. She is awesome, and yeah, just here to help and just trying my best. So I'm sorry if I get stuff wrong sometimes or if I'm a little delayed in responding, but yeah, this has been great, and thanks to all you.
I was just going to say pretty much what Carlos said. I was on the interviewing committee who interviewed Carlos, and it's the first time in years and years that we've gotten any new legislative analysts. And I didn't get to make the hiring decision that was made much higher up than me, but I'm so, so glad that Carlos got chosen. He's been a huge asset to council already. I'm really sorry that we're not working in person, but he's just awesome. So keep bothering him.
And how are you doing, Susan? Are you okay?
Things are good. I'm on leave. I'm taking 3 weeks off. So I mean, I'll be here for these meetings, but otherwise I'm off. So everything's good. But thank you very much.
And yeah, and Shabab and I just want to thank you guys both for being able to answer any and all questions that we've had. And you guys have made the last 4 months that have been at the end of a crazy year, you guys have made it easier. So we thank you for that. Madam Chair, on to you.
I just have one question. I just have one question for Susan.
Uh-oh.
How in the world can you be on vacation or whatever and still be at meetings? I could not do that when I was working.
Public safety is my area. I need to know what's going on everywhere. I need to help to the ability I am capable of, and police reform's happening now, so annual leave does not happen now. So.
Well, my hat is off to you. God bless
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think the support from the two of you has really been key to our success so far. I apologize, Robin, for cutting off just as you were asking that question. I completely agree with you that I think having an opportunity to discuss with Chief Jones, Sergeant Brewer, other folks from the department is completely essential. The other piece that Dalvin and I were reflecting on a little bit is we've had tremendous opportunities to get presentations from county staff and hear from different MCPD departments. What we haven't had as much of is hearing from the perspectives of those who are experiencing the policing. So that's something that we wanted to certainly lift up. And think about the other end of things is if we were to pose some of these same questions to those who are experiencing, whether it's SROs in schools, can we hear from students? If we're talking about traffic arrests, can we talk to people who have experienced traffic arrests? So that's just one piece that we want to bring in and make sure that as we head into next year, thinking about what kinds of presentations we're receiving, we want to certainly hear from our neighbors. Oh, sorry, Robin, did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I do. I do wonder if we are going to be able to put up in some kind of public place a comment form. It seems that we should have some open channel of communication from the community, and a comment form would be the way to go. Something that preferably can also include the ability to attach video. If necessary, and that means basically just a form on a website somewhere, but it should be something which we can point people to during our meetings so that the word gets out.
I completely agree. That is one of the items that is on the Google form, and we'd love to get all of your feedback on the way we've structured it, but that was a glaring omission, and it is in our authorizing statute that we have to receive comments and correspondence from the public.
Carlos, do you think that's relatively easily doable?
I think so, but I did want to make one point. So in speaking with Susan and one of the council attorneys, there was a piece that was inserted in the Google form that it was like an example of the structure of what we would put up on the website, and we wouldn't be able to anonymize everything because all of these public comments would be subject to public disclosure under an MPIA request. So we would just have to let the public know that if you submit comments, are subject to public disclosure. But with regards to putting a comment box, I would have to talk to the IT administrator of the website, but I don't think it would be too difficult. But again, I would have to look into that a bit more.
Can I plead ignorance? I don't think I've seen this Google Doc. I have no understanding of it or reference to it. Carlos, can you just send it to me again or send me the link?
I'm going to send it to everyone, but I believe you're the only one that responded to it, Robin.
Oh,
So
oh, you mean that one? I thought this was something elaborate, you know, like some really detailed thing. No, of course I did. Okay, well, in which case, it's clear that mine are the only opinions that count. So
no, but I will reshare it again, and I'll put it in Teams. I honestly wasn't sure if people were checking Teams because I wasn't getting too much response, or I didn't see too much traffic. So I kind of defaulted through sending emails, but I can revert back and post everything on Teams for sure.
I don't check Teams regularly. I guess should we? Do we have to do that?
no, but you know, the thing is, if everything is posted there, then you know that if you need something, that's where you can go, right? You don't have to bother Carlos necessarily. And on the other hand, everything should also be sent by email. There's no, you know, it's not either or.
Through my email, I get bing. There's a, you know, it signals.
Sure, absolutely. It should be both.
Okay.
So
No.
sounds like we have a plan for moving forward. So sorry about me hopping off and pushing this further. Let's go ahead and say goodnight for now, and I suppose Happy New Year, since we'll be seeing each other in the new year. Happy holidays to all of you. Thank you so much for your service. See you all in 2021.
Thanks, Shabab. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.